Okay, time for a little quiz. Question number one. The best-selling album of all time, and I'm going to give you the answer, is Michael Jackson's Thriller. It went 33 times platinum. But here's the question. In what year was Thriller released? Question number two. Japan sold the first compact disc player in what year? Last question. David Letterman, Late Night, made his debut on NBC in which year? Think you know the answer? 1982. Why am I going on about this? Well, 1982 was a big year for comics as well. Later on, I'm going to test your knowledge about the values of 6 comic books, all released in 1982. 3 of them are in the 4-figure value range, and 3 of them are simply worth hundreds of dollars. But the one I'm looking at this week is Amazing Spider-Man 231 as my rec pick. It is not worth hundreds of dollars. It's hardly worth $10, but I feel the comic I'm putting it up against, which is the Immortal Hulk 43, although it's a good book, shouldn't be worth what it's going for today. Welcome to Spec versus Rec, everybody, and boy, have we got a little game show quiz for you guys later on. Okay, see you then. Here we are again. What's hot versus what's been forgotten. Spec versus Rec. And this week I want to take a look at Immortal Hulk 43, specifically that Joe Bennett cover. I believe that's cover B. That's an homage cover. Well done cover. Well done cover. It's and again, Immortal Hulk has been a good, solid, innovative book. I mean, it's people are really enjoying it. It's just, unfortunately, it seems to have taken a little misstep on one particular panel that wasn't caught by the editors, the editorial team. Let me tell you, that would never happen in Jim Shooter's day. The comic I wanted to put this against is Amazing Spider-Man 231 with Cobra on the cover, but it also, if you're going to get 231, you might as well get 232 as well. And believe it or not, you can get the pair of them in very fine to near mint for less than 25 bucks, which is kind of a travesty, in my opinion. Like, these issues, although, you know, they're not the spec play of Amazing Spider-Man 300, first appearance of Venom, of course, they do have room to grow. These are classic John Romita Jr. Covers with that magical iron-fisted era of Jim Shooter as editor-in-chief at Marvel. But you gotta look, man, like, during the early 80s, like, you had stellar Spider-Man comics coming out. Secret Wars hit. I think we had the first miniseries Contest of Champions around this time too, under Shooter's watch. Just some amazing contributions. X-Men. Like, look what the X-Men was doing. You also had the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller Wolverine limited series, which kind of propelled Wolverine into the spotlight. Frank Miller's Daredevil was had the whole Elektra saga there. Just, you know, events that have kind of set the groundwork. Even God, what's it been? 40 years later. That's just amazing. Like, just a lot of it came from 1982 or thereabouts, very early 80s. That was big years for Marvel. Maybe people don't realize, but they certainly were. So that's why I wanted to look at 231. Now, there's no key first appearances. There's no. It's just kind of a cool, typical Spider-Man story. Not an upper tier villain by any stretch. It's not Doc Ock. It's not any of the core core Spider-Man villains. It's just Cobra. And the thing is, like, Spider-Man can kick Cobra's butt pretty much any day he wants. You also, at the end, you get an appearance by Mr. Hyde, who Cobra and Mr. Hyde often worked together. But again, Mr. Hyde, not a key Spider-Man or villain, even Daredevil villain by that stretch. He's just kind of in that B gallery, I guess. But again, these are, you know, well done, sentimental, nostalgic issues, I guess. And that's, you hit fans of a certain age and they say, hey, I remember, and you will remember that from the racks. So that's why I wanted to have a look at that. So that's basically my spec play for this week. If I was going to buy any of those listings for Amazing Spider-Man 231, I would get that first one. The 231 and 232, they're listed at a 9.4. I don't know if you noticed, but they're both newsstands. That's kind of a big deal. So if that is seriously a 9.4, with, who knows, perhaps the potential with a good cleaning and press to maybe even bump up that grade as a newsstand, like, those have a chance to be some pretty significantly valued books. That would be my speculation play before I would rush out and buy an Immortal Hulk 43. Let's face it, you know, getting those higher grades from the early 80s is not easy, which is why I wanted to do a little quiz for you guys, and I think it may be a little surprising. So no cheating now when you do this quiz. Like, we'll take it slow and let's see how you do on guessing some values of some hot comics from 1982. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, these are all comics from 1982, as you can see, and they're listed in alphabetical order. Okay, first of all, no signatures, no newsstands except for the Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica, because I don't think that existed as a direct edition, as no comic shop in the world would probably carry Betty and Veronica at that time. But okay, in alphabetical order, we have Amazing Spider-Man, annual number 16. This is the first appearance of Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, and because of her appearance in WandaVision, this sucker's literally gone through the roof lately. Huge speculation. A year ago, you could have this in a 9.8 probably for $100. Next, we have Betty and Veronica, or Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica, issue 320 with that lovely Dan DeCarlo classic cover. What's special about this issue is that it's the first appearance of Cheryl Blossom. Okay, next is Daredevil 181. This is kind of the culmination of Frank Miller's run, the big climax on Frank Miller's run on Daredevil with the death of Elektra. Again, probably one of the best known Daredevil storylines of all time. Seminal Frank Miller work, incredibly hot, incredibly popular in the day. Okay, next we have G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, #1 from 1982. Again, with the nostalgia play or whatever, this has been going up hard over the last year. Again, probably about a year ago, this might have been $100 to $200. It's not anymore. But how much is it worth? Take a guess. Okay, #5. This is the first series of Masters of the Universe by DC, the 9.8, first appearance in comics. So still a lot of He-Man fans out there, but how much is it worth? How many people took the trouble to preserve this in immaculate condition and then send it off to CGC all those years later? And finally, one of the best known comics from 1982. This is the limited series of Wolverine, issues 1 to 4. Again, that's Chris Claremont writing, Frank Miller art. I believe it's first Yukio, maybe, or first cameo of Yukio. Anyway, no real big key first appearances, but this was what kind of launched Wolverine into the stratosphere. He was popular before this. This cemented his status as an A-lister right here. So the values are, one of these, when I looked it up on eBay, is $2,800 US. Another is $2,500 US. Another one is $1,000 US. One is $600 US. One is $500, and one's about $350. Now those values may change. This was February 10th now of 2021. So if you're watching this in the future, maybe these values have flip-flopped. I don't know. But all I can tell you is right now, at this time, when I go and look on eBay, these are basically buy it now values for these books. So which one do you think is the most expensive? Which one do you think is the least expensive? Take a second and let's reveal the answers. Okay, maybe this is a surprise, maybe it isn't. #6 is actually Daredevil 181, Death of Elektra. Probably one of the biggest reasons. This book was printed like crazy. There's 1,300 CGC 9.8s out there. Again, a key book, but only worth maybe $350 if you're lucky. To be honest, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago I actually bought this one on eBay and shipped it to my friend for his 50th birthday there last year. I bought it for $2. Never read. Basically like near mint plus. So that's just goes to show you. Maybe I shouldn't be sending these things away, but I'm sure he'll appreciate it anyway. So Daredevil 181, Death of Elektra, #6. Maybe #5 is a surprise, maybe it's not. Basically, Masters of the Universe, #1. First series by DC, released 1982. You're looking value maybe around $500. One of the reasons, although it's not as hot as other titles by any stretch, there's still a big He-Man fan base out there. Also, on the census, there was only 347 of these slabbed in a 9.8. So it is significantly more rare than the Daredevil 181, so it could explain why it's, quite valuable, rare in this condition. So there you have it. Masters of the Universe #1 from DC, 1982. 500 bucks, give or take. Next up, we have probably one of the best known comics from 1982, certainly. One of the most coveted, highly collectible issues from that year by far is the first issue of the Wolverine Limited series by Claremont and Miller. Now this, today anyway, this runs about 600 bucks US. Again, these are approximate, but for such a collectible issue, why is it only #4? Well, there was a lot of these made. There's also on the CGC census 3,728 9.8s out there. So there is a lot of the 9.8 available for fans, which again explains why it's, going for triple digits and not quadruple digits. Who knows, in the future it may get up there. Again, Wolverine's still incredibly popular character. I'd be tempted, honestly, at this price. I would be tempted if I had the spare cash lying around to pick this up, just because it is such a well-known, iconic book. But anyways, there you go. #4, Wolverine #1. Okay, a recent addition to Big Value Books, Amazing Spider-Man Annual #16 from 1982. Why? The first appearance of Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel, who appeared in the WandaVision Disney Plus show. So again, a year ago, this book was probably 100 bucks. It's just gone through the roof again. Disney Plus, or with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, tends to propel certain books into the stratosphere as soon as there's an appearance in any of their sort of screen. But anyways, there you have it. We're now into the value books. So how you doing so far? Are you guys 4 for 4 here, or not quite doing so well? Only 2 left. Who's going to be #1? Will it be G.I. Joe or Archie? Let's find out. Up until very recently, this book would have been #1. I know that's hard to believe, but let's think about this. How many people collect Betty and Veronica in high grade, especially from the early 80s? Now, there was buzz around the appearance of Cheryl Blossom, the well-known book, but again, there was no shops carrying these books. It was literally everything was newsstand. As a result, incredibly few high-grade Archies from the early 80s or earlier exist. In fact, on the CGC census for a 9.8, there's literally 11 of these, which is why it's going for around 2,500 bucks, 2,500 American or thereabouts. Incredibly hard to find. You're talking about a handful. So there are Archie fans out there, especially with the resurgence of Riverdale, Afterlife with Archie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Okay, let's face it. I mean, longevity counts. Archie's been around since what, the 40s? That's amazing. And you've got all these new projects coming out, like the Afterlife with Archie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Great intellectual property there, and combined with only a handful of high-grade CGC books for a key character like Cheryl Blossom. So it's no wonder this is such an expensive book, and it will continue to be such an expensive book unless somebody, has buried a crate of Betty and Veronica 320s in fantastic condition in some warehouse somewhere. I can't see this going down. But anyways, which brings us to our #1 book, which is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Marvel Comics, 1982, issue number 1. Boatload of first appearances, pretty much all your key characters, printed on Baxter paper, quite beautiful. There was 705 of these in CGC 9.8, so not as rare as Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica by any stretch, but more rare than the Wolverine limited series issue number 1 by far, by about a quarter. So this book has skyrocketed in the last little bit. A year ago, Betty and Veronica 320 would have been worth more than this book. But now, because of the huge nostalgia play with the toys, with everything G.I. Joe, huge fan base. And again, it's Larry Hama. This comic could have been just a handful of issues dedicated to a toy line. And that's honestly is the fate of most of these. Like if you look at the Masters of the Universe comic books, none of them went more than a dozen issues ever. And huge fan base, but it just don't have the stories to go with it. But what Larry Hama did for 155 freaking issues, just an amazing run on G.I. Joe. Great stories, great scripts. You know, that one with Snake Eyes, I believe it was issue 2, is revolutionary. It just fantastic series. So there's your number 1, and like I said, it was pretty close because it was literally a difference of a few $100 between Betty and Veronica 320 versus G.I. Joe number 1. So I hope you enjoyed the little quiz, and it just goes to show you that if you see some high grade Archie comics out there in the wild, like don't snub your nose at those, especially the Betty and Veronica ones. They can. I've been looking on eBay, and I was kind of shocked how expensive some of those are. So I'll be keeping my eyes open, you know, once I go back to the shops again. But I'll show you what I picked up recently. So on my second Spec versus Rec video, I ran Giga number 1 versus this one, which at the time I did not have the image. I only had the homage version of Astor City number 1. But, you know, to back up my claims and put the money where the mouth is, I went on to eBay. I bought these 3, 1, 2, and 3, $10. Again, that's a beautiful looking number 1. I also picked up these 2 bad boys for $2 a piece, Canadian, because I'll buy Sandman Mystery Theater number 1 all day, every day at $2 a pop, and that's Matt Wagner and Guy Davis, by the way. So there you go. I mean, $25 all in with shipping, 5 comics. Hey, not bad, right? These are kind of the terms of engagement for a rec speculation, as it were. I did mention that I had around Ron Morris I'm going to do, and I will do it in a future video. I was hoping to get it out there in time for Valentine's Day, as it's the anti-Valentine's Day. It's basically Green Lantern 54 that's on the way. Now, I'm bringing this up because speaking of negative speculation, the same as Incredible Hulk 43, the term fridging, or women in fridges, comes from Ron Mars's Green Lantern Volume 3, Issue 54 with Kyle Rayner. Infamous issue, and I feel kind of dirty, you know, spending $5 to pick that up, but it is historically significant for all the wrong reasons. It is a known issue. Doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's known. It's out there to kind of balance my internal scale. I also purchased All-Star Superman with that one for $5 as well. So I'll be comparing that as a speculation play here in the near future. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. But again, thanks everybody. I hope you enjoyed this trip back in time to 1982. I know I did. I was kind of prime comic buying age back then. I was buying a lot of scary books, actually. I'm a huge House of Mystery fan. Unexpected. Those are kind of my groove. But you know, I like reading Spider-Man and Batman at that time too, and whatnot. So one thing I wasn't reading was Archie comics. Kind of wish I wasn't. Kind of set it aside in beautiful condition. Maybe we would have 12 at the CGC 9.8, but I didn't. So there you go. So once again, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time on Spec versus Rec. Bye bye.